Hey, what's up y'all? Augie Johnston with ballerbootcamp.com, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a question and answer for the first time. So what I've been doing over the past 2 or 3 days has been asking members of our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/ballerbootcamp, all one word. And what I've been doing is asking them for their questions that they want answered, and I was going to answer them in this question and answer video. Now, I don't want this thing to drag on forever. We had over 20 questions just on one post, and I had like 2 or 3 posts, so this could drag on forever. I'm just going to do about 10 minutes and then cut it off at that, and then I'll do this at least once a week, and eventually we'll get caught up and get everybody's questions answered. So let's go ahead and get into the first question. Don't even know how to work this thing. There's people from all over the world in this Facebook group. We are almost 20,000 strong in there, so if you're not in there, make sure you jump in there. It's a great way to interact with other ballers and of course myself as well. So the question is, what's the difference between D1, D2, and D3 colleges, and can you make it to the NBA with either one? Now that's a good question because there is some distinct differences between D1, D2, D3. Now the question about can you make it to the NBA from either one, of course, obviously, if you do well at a Division I college. Now if it's a small Division I, then maybe you're not going to have a great chance of going to the NBA, but if you do well enough, you can think of, Damian Lillard went to the NBA at a Weber State. Many players have, and that's a small D1, but obviously going to the NBA at a D1 is definitely possible, especially if you go to a major or a mid-major and do really well. Now going to the NBA from a D2, it's possible, it's been done, but at this point in time, I would honestly say that that's a thing of the past, and that nowadays it's really unlikely to go to the NBA from a D2 school. Now, of course, there's different routes. You could go play in the D League and get looked at and earn a 10-day contract and do well there, and then eventually earn your big boy contract. But I think that if you play D2, D3, or NAIA, you're basically shooting your chances of going to the NBA, which is not a bad thing. It's just that at some point in your career, you're gonna have to make the decision and either give up on that D1 dream if you're not good enough, if you're not getting looks, and go D2 or D3 or NAIA, or you just got to do really well in high school and get recruited to go D1, and then those chances of you going to the NBA are still alive for another 4 years, and it's just up to you to prove yourself. Now the main differences between D1, D2, and D3 is just basically scholarship money. The level of play, of course, is higher at D1 than D2, but at the same time, like a bad small D1 is going to be probably a lot worse than a really high level good D2, and vice versa. Same with D3. A really good D3 is going to be better than a piss poor D2 as well. So obviously the level is different, obviously scholarship money is different, and also in D3 I don't think you're even allowed to offer scholarships. A lot of those players, they're on athletic scholarships, so that's basically how they're able to go to school for free, but really normally they're not on athletic scholarships. Okay, so the next question is from Andy Enriquez, and he says, how do you get faster and bigger to handle the competition at the college level? Now this is a really important one, and I remember at the time of me going from high school to college, really sitting down and thinking about what I needed to do to get stronger, faster, and all the things you just asked in that question. And the first thing you got to do is you got to get in the weight room. You need to get in the weight room, you need to have a plan, you need to follow that plan, and you'll be able to get stronger. What I did personally was basically after my junior year, I really committed to hitting the weights. I really was in the weight room 5-6 days a week, and I did that all the way until, basically a few years into my overseas career. I was really going hard in the weight room, and it wasn't until the last few years where I kind of tailed off away from the weight room and started focusing my time on like injury prevention and stuff as I got older. But you definitely do want to focus on getting bigger and getting stronger before you go into that college, because it's going to be a big wake up, because from the ages of 17 to 22 when you finish college, or 23, you really develop physically into a man. You really can fill in, get thicker neck, and get stronger as a player. At least that's what happened with me. And the next question, it comes from Harith Sampson, and he says, do you have any tips on recovering on a serious injury like a broken leg, and tips on playing without the support of your own family? Now, I don't have any kind of tips on what you should do from recovering from a broken leg. Go ask your doctor on that one. Now for your second question on tips about playing without the support of your family is a really tough one, and what I have to say for that is, this is your life. You can do whatever you want to do with your life. Yeah, you want the support, and ideally it's good to have the support of your parents. I personally did. But you don't need the support of your parents. If you really do need like some emotional support, just look for it in other places besides your family and your parents or whatever. Go ask some coaches, okay? Go bond with some teammates that are also in it and support you. find a different way. But in the end, like I said, it's all on you. It's your life. You can do what you want. If you really want to play basketball and make this your thing, then I say go for it, and you don't need the support from anyone really. It's just how bad do you really love the game, because in the end, yeah, there's gonna be conflict involved with the game. You just gotta stick with it and know that you're doing it for the right reasons because you love the game. The next question comes from Joseph Kim, and his question is, what is the most motivating factor that you've ever faced? And he's talking about a loss in a crucial game, revenge, etc. So for me, there's a lot of different things that motivate me, but I always tell players you can't get motivated by external things. You can't watch a motivational video and get motivated. Yeah, you might get inspired for that moment, but really true motivation comes from within, and you have to be self-motivated. If you're not self-motivated, if it takes a coach yelling at you or telling you what you want to hear to get you motivated, then in the end, it's not gonna work out for you because you're gonna lose that motivation, that inspiration in time. But for me, there's a few things that motivate me. One was always my wife. So I've been with my wife since we were about 15 years old in high school. She was the stat girl that kept our stats in high school, and I always wanted to do good for her. That's one of the reasons that I continued my overseas career for so long, for 7 years, was because I wanted to continue it for her so that she could get to see Europe, travel. She liked it, she enjoyed it. So that's number one. Another motivating factor for me was, some games that I've lost in the past that really motivated me was the last game that I played after, in high school when we lost in the CIF playoffs. That game motivated me for years and years and years. Really nowadays, it doesn't really get me going like it used to, but all through college even, it helped motivate me. I even remember the day after we lost that game, going and working out with my buddy, who I'll tell you about in a second, and just totally injuring our body, like working out in the weight room for like 4 hours, doing all kinds of squats, all kinds of stuff, and basically the next day we had just basically strained all of our muscles. And that friend, his name was Daryl. He was another motivating factor I had. He was a kid that moved to my hometown in 8th grade and was better than me. And that always hurts when there's a kid that moves into town that's better than you, when you think that you're one of the top dogs. So that motivated me too for a super long time to try to get better than him. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate with that. And yeah, on to the next question. All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions. I'm gonna go ahead and knock them out. The next question comes from Paul Simperingham, and his question is, what did your schedule / day look like for a typical game day in season when you were playing in Europe? Same question except for days when you didn't have games. Now this totally depends on whatever team I was playing for, whatever league I was playing for. So when I played in the 2nd League of Germany, it's called the Pro A. This was probably the hardest year I had as far as workload when it came to basketball. So a typical game day was wake up, eat breakfast, go to shoot around. We had shoot around for about an hour, come home, relax until game time. Show up to game time about 2 hours before. If we had a road game, then a lot of times it was like wake up at 6, get to the bus at 7, get on the bus, drive for 5 or 6 hours, get there, relax, eat, play the game, and drive all the way home. So that was a typical travel day. That was a grind. A lot of time was spent on that bus that season. Now in a lot of the other leagues that I played in, it wasn't so serious on game day. I would just wake up. A lot of times I would foam roll on game day, eat breakfast, eat a good meal. I always would eat my meals 4 hours before tip-off. So it would be my last pregame meal. So if the game was at 7:30, at 3:30 I would eat my last pregame meal, a semi-large meal, and then I would just let that go until game time. Also, on days when we didn't have games, when I played like in the German Pro A, normally it was 2 practices a day on the court, and sometimes 3 when we had the weight room as well. So we would have like a shooting practice in the morning, do a little 3-on-3, some pick and roll work, stuff like that, skill stuff, hit the weight room later, and then practice at night, which was like a full 2-hour practice. Now in other leagues, we would just have like 1 practice a day, and they would be at night, so you have basically all day to just chill. And normally, I'd go and meet up with friends for lunch, or I'd get in the gym and just get my own personal shooting workout in that wasn't with the team, spend time with my wife, watch a lot of Netflix, that kind of stuff. It's pretty low key when you're playing overseas. Especially if you're not in one of the top leagues. You have a lot of time to yourself, and that's one of the reasons I was able to build up Baller Boot Camp while I was playing overseas. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of downtime when you're in Europe, and you can't really do too much traveling because you got a couple games or a game every week, you got practice, but you do have breaks where you don't have anything and you get free time, and then you can travel to other countries. That's what we would like to do, and eat at new restaurants and stuff like that. Question is from Ilaj. And the last question is from Elijah Richburg, and he says, if you got paid as much as a movie star and could be anything in the world, what would it be? Of course, obviously, it would be an NBA basketball player. That's like what my life is basketball. It's what I've pretty much been doing since I was in the 3rd grade, was just thinking every day about basketball, even to this day. But other than that, I don't know, maybe I would like to be a college coach or something with basketball. I'm sorry, I know I should have answered this with something besides basketball because it's obvious, but I really can't think of anything I would rather be. I actually used to like be a rapper and stuff in high school, so maybe that route too, but I'm basically out of that game, so don't even ask me for a demo. I know you guys are probably gonna kill me in the comments, but that's it for this week's video. I hope you guys liked this question and answer. If you did, let me know in the comments. Leave your question in the comments or head over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/ballerbootcamp, or just search for Baller Bootcamp in the search on Facebook and you'll find us. And most importantly, head over to ballerbootcamp.com. I got tons of stuff on there. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.